Sometimes the objective world and the narrative world touch. You know, that's Jungian synchronicity. Yeah. And I've seen that many times in my own life. And so in some sense, I believe it's undeniable. You know, we have a narrative sense of the world. For me, that's been the world of morality. That's the world that tells us how to act. It's real. Like, we treat it like it's real. It's not the objective world. But the narrative and the objective world touch. And the ultimate example of that in principle.
So that is Jordan Peterson crying
mythological
about
gods. And of course, people have made that claim.
So I'm here to comment about this thing and sort of explain what are the ideas that are being taught here. And I actually did a video about this before, but I believe it was a very subpar job because I forgot to plug in my mic and I thought the thoughts that I said weren't very clear. But so here is my clearer thoughts and commentary about this whole issue, and I'll be explaining what Jordan Peterson actually means when he talks about all these things. So let's continue watching the video and I'll commentate on top of it.
In comparative religion, Joseph Campbell did that, and Jung to a lesser degree, I would say, but Campbell did that. But the difference, and C.S. Lewis pointed this out as well, the difference between those mythological gods and Christ was that there's a representation of, there's a historical representation of his existence as well. Now, you can debate whether or not that's genuine. You can debate about whether or not he actually lived.
So it is true that a lot of people debate about whether a historical Christ does exist, but in terms of the scholarship, if you read a book by Bart Ehrman that talks about who is the historical Jesus, in general, scholarship believes that there's a historical Jesus, but at the same time, Jordan Peterson is talking about a historical Jesus as well as a mythological Jesus that I'll explain even more when he talks about C.S. Lewis.
And whether there's credible objective evidence for that, but it doesn't matter in some sense because this, well, it does, but there's a sense in which it doesn't matter because there's still a historical story. And so what you have in the figure of Christ is an actual person who actually lived plus a myth. And in some sense, Christ is the union of those two things. The problem is I probably believe that, but I don't know. I'm amazed.
So let me explain what Jordan Peterson is trying to say, and I'll try my best to for you to be able to understand. And I think what Jordan Peterson is saying in the video previously, if you watch the whole video, I'll put the link in the description below. He's saying that Jordan Peterson was looking at the content of C.S. Lewis. And if you don't know who C.S. Lewis is, he's a theologian and he's a creative writer. And Jordan Peterson is acknowledging the fact that there is a real historical Christ, but at the same time, because he's writing about the biblical stories, or for example Genesis, that got him a lot of views on YouTube, he uses the biblical stories as a springboard for mortality or for morality. He talks about, and using those stories, he talks about the fact that there's a myth of Christ. Jordan Peterson defines a myth as a method, as a way that the culture transmit ideas. Therefore, Jordan is saying that in the event that a person believes in a historical Christ, as well as the myth of Christ being the same thing, that will be the ultimate reality that God truly exists. And that would essentially mean that there is a miracle. And this is what I understood from him talking about discussions of God. And obviously he doesn't like to answer the question on whether he believes in God.
At my own belief, and I don't understand it. Like, because I've seen sometimes the objective world and the narrative world touch. You know, that's Jungian synchronicity. Yeah. And I've seen that many times in my own life. And so in some sense, I believe it's undeniable. You know, we have a narrative sense of the world. For me, that's been the world of morality. That's the world that tells us how to act. It's real. Like, we treat it like it's real. It's not the objective world. But the narrative and the objective world touch. And the ultimate example of that in principle is supposed to be Christ. But I don't know what to, that seems to me oddly plausible.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
still don't know what to make of it. Partly because it's too terrifying a reality to fully believe. I don't even know what would happen to you if you fully believed it.
if you believed in the story of Christ, or if you believed that history and let's say the narrative meet, let's
Both,
say.
I think. I think because when you believe that, you buy both those stories. You believe that
Yeah.
the narrative and the objective can actually touch.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that, you
So
and
I think
I mean,
that is the main comment of Jordan Peterson regarding this issue. I'll try my best to explain what is the narrative world and the objective world that Jordan Peterson is talking about. And it is a very abstract concept, and obviously I do not feel that I'm a professional, but I believe I've understood the meaning of what he was trying to say. Jordan Peterson is saying that there is an objective world, or he claims that there's an objective world, and what that really means is that there is a consciousness that has a definite meaning, a consciousness that has a definite meaning. So in a Christian worldview, for a Christian, what an objective world would mean that there is objective laws, meaning that God is the one that creates these laws, and there's a fixed set of laws, and there's nothing fluid, and there are nothing that can be defined out of it. And a narrative worldview would be a story that you tell yourself, that you live life and you ascribe meaning to it, regardless of whether you believe in a God. It could be you waking up every day and you just giving meaning to life, or you just giving meaning to your own life by saying that I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to the toilet, I'm going to go work. These are the things that we say to ascribe a narrative worldview. So if you think with me for a while, I think what that really means is that a narrative worldview is the individual worldview, it's the world that we hold, that each person holds and tells themselves. But objective worldview is a consciousness that exists and has an objective meaning. And therefore, I believe what Jordan Peterson is saying is that the combination of a narrative of us with an objective worldview, a worldview that a stronger, a higher power exists about us, means that we exist in a story with God. Because if a narrative world is a story that we tell ourselves to live by, but as Christians, we live with objectivity. We live with a being that is God, that gives us meaning, and we combine our narrative, our stories, with the objective meaning of God in order to give us worlds, in order to give us the understanding to live a life that God has infused Himself into it. So, I think in simple words, what it really means is that we put our own life into with the meaning of God. We infuse God's meaning into our life. And if you watch stuff about Jordan Peterson, it really fascinates me that he likes to talk about Christ. And if you watch this full video that I put in the link below, if you watch this full video, he suddenly just talks about Christ. In the Christian worldview, a lot of people have watched this video and have been saying that God is working on Jordan Peterson, or Jordan Peterson is not a Christian because he does not proclaim that he believes in God. But it is really impossible for us to judge who is a Christian at all. Only person that can judge is God Himself. And it's amazing that Jordan Peterson likes to say that he acts as if God exists, and this is so true. As Christians, our actions need to align with our belief that God exists. And a good example that Jordan Peterson was saying is that if there's a God that actually watches you, how will you act? If there's a God that watches your every step, your every move, everything that you do, how will you act? I think this is an exhortation to Christians to believe that God is not just a God of the Bible. He's not in a story, He's not a myth, He's not something that we take as principles only, but He is a being that watches and understands us. And if we truly believe that, as Christians, we truly believe that, how will we act? How will we act? Yeah, and this also ties in with the series I've been doing of Ravi Zacharias. And if you like content like this, please subscribe, follow, and share this video so you can learn more about Christian living. And I'll put my playlist about Ravi Zacharias. And a lot of people have been talking about him, about what he has been doing and the different misconducts. He led a double life. He led a double life, a sexual life, as well as a picture of a perfect Christian. So I'll leave the video for you here to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.